So, Netflix has finally set a title and release date for the Peaky Blinders movie. They've called it The Immortal Man and set the release date as 6th of March 2026. So, with it being released soon, I thought I'd go over what I think should happen to conclude the story of Tommy Shelby and the Shelby family as a whole, as I'm sure we'll see the end of all of it in this movie.
With a red right hand.
So my first initial belief is that this will not be a happy ending. Or at least I don't believe that it should be. This movie is likely to take place either at the start of or just before the start of World War II. My belief would be just before, as Oswald Mosley was a key figure in British politics around the time, that he's a foe Tommy has yet to defeat. I believe Tommy would try and fail to stop Mosley as he has done before. Now, this belief isn't based on history, as this show has demonstrated. It doesn't follow the exact historical timelines in the real world, like with the killings of Billy Kimber and stuff like that, but more so based on a storytelling standpoint. Now, throughout the show, we have never really seen Tommy fail, and I believe in this movie, his first act of true good will likely end in his failure and ultimate demise. I initially predicted Tommy would die in season 6 before a movie was officially confirmed. But now the movie is coming out and has been definitively stated to be the conclusion of the story, I don't see how there could be a concrete conclusion to this story without the death of Tommy Shelby. In my eyes, not only does a bad ending for Tommy make the most sense from a story perspective, but also from a moral one. I mean, does a man like Tommy, with all the suffering and pain he's caused, really deserve a happy ending? And we know Tommy is a complex man with a very he's got a lot of struggles going on mentally. He's got very contradictory behaviours and beliefs, with his logic and then also his belief in, spirits and stuff and other forms of supernatural forces. Now, whether he believes in these out of cope for his actions or whether his beliefs are true, these beliefs do play a significant role in Tommy's actions, like the curses that he thought were put on the necklace he gave to his wife and his daughter. And I think the idea of him tackling these beliefs and coming to terms with his own actions and morality will make for a very interesting and complex story for the final film.
With a red right hand.
I think as a given, Mosley will be the primary antagonist in this film. He took more of a backseat in season 6, and I suspect the reason for this is because the writers wanted to keep him as the ultimate villain for the final movie. I mean, season 6 was riddled with issues. You can see my video on that. But I think they had different intentions before the passing of Helen McCrory. But I think keeping Oswald Mosley alive and on the back burner for this final movie really does make a lot of sense. Now, I said I don't think Mosley will die in this movie. However, I do think Tommy will find some success in ultimately undermining or toppling Mosley and his political movement, because Mosley never ended up in power in Britain in history, and I think Tommy in the movie will play a big reason in that. And I think him undermining Mosley will be sort of him signing his own death warrant and getting him killed. I just feel like we need to see Tommy do something truly selfless and good to give him some redemption arc after all the terrible acts he's committed, particularly in the final season. I think the final seasons of the show had been set up in a way where Tommy's death is all but assured. He's lost so many friends and family over the course of the show, and most of whom were casualties of his own actions or inactions and his own greed and desire for power. And I think this last stand that he takes in this film will not just be for his family's benefit, but for the benefit of all people. And this brings me on to the final and maybe most important part of the Shelby story.
With a red right hand.
Like in all of Peaky Blinders, Tommy's family is going to be a huge part of this final movie. Family is sort of the real main theme of the entire show. Nothing really happens in this film without family getting involved. So I think that will be something that's really, really important. I personally like the idea of Arthur, the oldest and most chaotic and self-destructive brother, to be the last one in the core 3 standing, because Arthur has always seemed to be the most dependent on both John and Tommy. And from the core 3 brothers, I know Finn's a brother as well, and we'll get into him, but from the core 3 that we see throughout the majority of the show, I think Arthur would be the one that I'd like to see the most be the last one standing, because I think that would be sort of a nice juxtaposition where the one who's got such a death wish and is so chaotic and violent is the last man standing. As for Finn, and I'm really not too sure how he fits into the story. He never really seemed to serve much of a role in the show. More often than not, he was just there for someone to exposit to, or to be used as a hostage or plot device, which happened in season 5. So I'd like to see him and Arthur take a more senior role in the final season, as I think that would be quite a poetic and full circle moment for both Finn and Arthur. In fact, it'd be nice to see if Finn sort of assumes Tommy's role, albeit a lot more peaceful in being the head of the family, and with Arthur by his side. I would also love to see Ada become more of a political figure. You know, in the earlier seasons, she was very politically motivated, sort of had her ideology shifted throughout her time in the show through various events that happened in her life. But I think she is by far the most politically built. She's the member of the family who's most prone to fill Tommy's political role in Parliament after he dies. She's a very ideologically driven woman, and she's very strong and can't be manipulated mentally like someone like Arthur can. Now, for the final part of this is Tommy's kids and his wife, which are where I think things get more difficult. It's fair to say that Tommy never moved on from Grace. I mean, how could you look at her? And Lizzie always sort of felt like a spare part. And his son and his daughter before she died also just sort of seemed like plot devices. Now, Tommy has 2 remaining sons, and I honestly don't know how they fit. Especially Duke, who was sort of shoehorned in to the final season without much of a clear purpose at all. I personally like to believe that Tommy can reunite what's left of his family in this final season. You know, make amends with Lizzie and bring some good and peace to the Shelby family, but does a family like this even deserve peace after the things that they've done? Obviously now, with the death of Michael and Polly and John and Tommy's daughter, Ruby, there's really not much left. It'd be very interesting to see how the remaining members of the Shelby family progress. And again, this goes back to the no happy endings thing. Do any of these people get happy endings? Ada's lost her husband, Arthur lost his wife and his brother, Lizzie's lost her daughter and is probably going to lose her husband. I don't really see how anyone gets a happy ending in this story. Are they really the people who deserve a happy ending? Or are they just victims of their brother? Are they just victims of Tommy Shelby like so many people have been before? That'll be an interesting theme to go through in this final season, as in many ways you could say that people like Arthur and Ada and Lizzie and his kids are all just victims of Tommy's greed and drive. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment down below your predictions for the final season, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.